The 2026 Daytona 500, let's talk about it. This race was a good race. It was by no means great. It was by no means bad. It wasn't an all time classic either. But if you like some constant double wide, three wide action, the 2026 Daytona 500 was for you. I did enjoy that close racing, but of course, if you follow the sport and you especially know this Gen 7 car is really bad when it comes to all out full throttle racing. Everyone is kind of in a fuel saving strategy, which isn't bad by any means, but every single race, it seems like, especially every plate race, every driver seems to be on some sort of fuel economy strat to try to make it to the end. So everyone ends up running around 50-60% in a giant pack, and everyone kind of gets gridlocked in an area, and you can't really make a move until somebody makes a mistake. But the racing was overall clean. They're outside of that lap 5 spin by BJ McLeod by his car braking, which is unfortunate for him. They had to race their way in. The race was pretty much clean throughout the first 80 laps. Then they had that weird Zilich and Cody Ware wreck. And then once Justin Allgaier threw that horrible block on Denny Hamlin, like lap 130 or something like that, that's when the race started getting extremely competitive. Of course, like every Daytona 500 that's been a thing since 2018, we need to have a bunch of wrecks right at the end. And that's exactly what happened. Once 2 laps to go come around, everyone decides to go 100% on the throttle all of a sudden. And coming on the final lap, Carson Hocevar leading the race. He gets dumped, collects Eric Jones and my boy Michael McDowell out of the running immediately. 12 cars or something like that wreck behind them. NASCAR doesn't show it on the broadcast because Fox sucks at broadcasting, but we're not going to talk about that. Then there's like 7 or 8 cars left in the lead pack. Chase Elliott is leading. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to throw the caution. It's the most popular driver out in front, most popular drivers in for the last 7 years, but they don't. So the haters gotta hold their mouths shut at least right now because they didn't throw the yellow for Chase Elliott leading. They let the race go on, even though arguably you would think that a caution would be necessary because there's like 15 cars wrecked in turn 1, but they kept it green. Riley Herbst pushing his teammate Tyler Reddick super fast. Elliott had no chance. Reddick makes a beautiful slingshot pass in the tri-oval, and as Herbst decides to sacrifice himself by throwing a horrible block on Brad Keselowski, the entire 2nd through 8th place cars wreck, and Tyler Reddick runs to the checkered flag uncontested to get his first Daytona 500 win, making Michael Jordan a Daytona 500 champion as a team owner. It's great for Reddick, who came off last year, unfortunately went winless after winning the 2024 regular season championship with 2 wins. Reddick had a winless year in 2025, but he finished 2nd in the Daytona 500 last year and capitalized on that by getting his first Daytona 500 win. But unfortunately, we can't see a natural. I mean, I'm personally a fan of this. I know a lot of people are. They kind of get annoyed that everyone just basically explodes in the last lap. We'll always have to deal with a bunch of overtime restarts. We can't just have a natural green flag run to the finish. You know what I'm saying? You have to go all the way back to 2017 to see the last green flag run to the finish in the Daytona 500. I don't know how many laps it was, maybe 40 or 50, but Kurt Busch and a group of cars, Blaney, Allmendinger, Larson were in that pack, Paul Menard, all challenging for the win. They were battling for fuel economy. Let me say that. But again, it was a natural long run. It wasn't a giant pack. Cars eventually started trickling down the order. There were like 10 cars in the lead pack at the end. Kurt Busch ended up getting his only Daytona 500, and that was a great race. What's happened since then? Well, in 2018, Austin Dillon dumps Eric Almirola in turn 3 to win the race. In 2019, we have like 2 overtime restarts. Denny Hamlin wins the race. In 2020, we have Newman basically exploding after Hamlin and Blaney are battling hard, and Hamlin ends up winning again. 2021 races was horrible for like 89% of the race until the final few laps, and then my boy McDowell gets the win after Keselowski and Logano basically turned into a fireball. 2022, which I'll talk about in a second, everyone wrecks on the way to the line as Cindric holds off Bubba for the win. 2023, the race ends under caution as Stenhouse has to edge out Logano to the caution light because everyone wrecked in turn 1. 2024, the caution gets thrown out literally 3 inches after the cars pass the start-finish line to start the final lap, and Byron gets the win. And in 2025, everyone wrecks entering turn 3, and William Byron magically comes out with the lead after being in like 7th place to win 2 straight. And again, 2026, Herbst basically wrecks everyone after everyone wrecked in turn 1. But the 2026 Daytona 500 was by no means bad. 2311 actually capitalized on the lawsuit they had to deal with in the offseason by getting the Daytona 500 win. Childress, with all the stuff that happened with Steve Phelps and the text messages that came out, ended up getting the pole for the race with Kyle Busch, which was a big accomplishment and a W for the RCR organization. Also, this race was all really good across all speed weeks. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, DEI is overpowered. Austin Hill and Jesse Love have won that race since 2022. They've won so many. That's the problem. The racing was good overall in that one. It wasn't as good as the truck race, which I'll talk about in a second, but no one could really get around Hill and Love for more than 3 seconds. The truck race surprised me. Everyone wasn't brain dead. They actually kept it clean. And outside of a few instances where the track hasn't been repaved in a long time, so the off turn 4, that area entering the tri-oval, they spin because there's lack of grip and the drivers usually overcorrect and spin down. That happened like Cletus McFarland and Kyle Busch and Brad had a couple close instances in the Cup race. But yeah, the truck race actually surprised me. Chandler Smith, congratulations on winning that race and praising God when you came out of that truck. Now back to the 2022 Daytona 500. That was the first ever race in the Gen 7 car, so everyone was kind of going all out because we had to see how the car ran. That was the best Daytona 500 in the Gen 7 era. It's not the greatest race, but it was actually a really competitive event. Austin Cindric getting the win in that one. The 2026 Daytona 500, I would say, is the second best. It had competitive racing, but again, the fuel economy gridlock giant pack does kind of negate the fact that they're all racing in a pack. No one's really making a move. They're all just kind of racing just in sync. So, yeah, but it was a good race. I'm going to rate it similar to how I rated Super Bowl 60 last week, where I'm going to rate it a 6.5 out of 10. Not a great game, but by no means bad. It was a decent, respectable race. Again, congratulations to Tyler Reddick for putting his name on the Harley J. Earl Trophy, and congratulations for 2311 to win their first Daytona 500 as a team. Riley Herbst, even though I don't like him at all, and I don't think he should be in the Cup Series in that top-level equipment, he gets his first career top 10 in the team's, since driving for that team in his 37 start with them, his second career top 10. And Bubba ran up front as well. I don't remember where he finished, but I think he finished in the top 20 or the top 15. Correct me if I'm mistaken. But again, those are my thoughts on the 2026 Daytona 500. I guess every now and then I'm going to air my thoughts for some big event or a big sporting race or whatever. But yeah, 6.5 out of 10. It was a good race. It wasn't the best. It could have been better. Definitely the Gen 7 package, they need to do something about that. NASCAR, another positive. Thank God we don't have to hear them yap about the playoffs anymore. It's the chase. Points matter so much. It felt so good not hearing playoffs when it came to like winning you're in for more than 2 seconds. The only time they ever mentioned it was when they said, oh, we changed the points format. Going to another super speedway right after in Atlanta. I'm not calling it Echo Park. So we'll see what happens. But again, those are my thoughts on the 2026 Daytona 500. It was a good race. It wasn't great. I feel like I've said that like 10 times now, but good job, Reddick. It was good job. I mean, Fox could have definitely done better because Fox is a joke at broadcasting NASCAR races. But hey, it was a good race overall. I felt good watching it. No rain delay for feels like the first time in a century. So the race actually ended relatively with the lights still out around like 6:30-ish after the race started around 1:30. It was clean. There wasn't excessive amounts of wrecking until the final like lap or so. But hey, those are my thoughts on the 2026 Daytona 500 and overall speed weeks in a small sense about the truck and the O'Reilly race. The ARCA race was fine. It's a modern ARCA race at Daytona. Not really much to talk about. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the 2026 Daytona 500. I hope you guys liked that video. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.